So, hey, what did you learn today?
I learned that it is never okay to disrespect your father, no matter how complicated the relationship. And what did you learn today?
I learned that people are really into Mr. Potato Head. Yeah. Yeah, especially the Mr. part. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for more.
Yeah. Welcome to the Hallspace Podcast. It's about connections. I'm your host, Dr. Ritch Hall, and this is a weekly conversation about whatever and however I see to connect things. For people who want to connect, chat, and learn a thing or two about a thing or two. Without further ado, let's start the show.
You're better at those. I got to get my life. All right. We'll keep up. I can do it.
And welcome to another episode of the Hallspace Podcast. My name is Ritch Hall, and I'm here with my lovely and capable wife,
Nicole Hall. Welcome, welcome.
Welcome back to the show.
Hey there.
And we're talking about things.
Couple of things, right?
Couple of main things on the docket today. Some in the news things that we wanted to discuss. Did we talk about the Megan Markel interview?
We did not.
That was a whole thing.
That definitely was a
I mean,
whole thing.
that's a bit of a quickie. We can get through that. I mean, who's surprised that she might have experienced some racism?
Who's surprised that she experienced racism in
the royal court?
And that England is
it is a monarchy. It's built on blood ties.
Oh yeah, they're about blood ties, and they're concerned about the complexion of her son.
Yeah, not a surprise. What's interesting is how some people with low racial understanding are like, why would anyone ever ask that? As if people don't ask or say things like that.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, Megan Markel, like, they're concerned about her son's complexion. So Megan Markel is pretty fair.
Yeah.
And then her son is even fairer.
He would be white passing in a certain time.
Right.
In history, there would be no concerns whatsoever.
Would be, yeah, but I mean, it goes back to that whole one drop rule, right?
Yeah. No,
where it's we know that you're black, and we know that your wife and your wife's mom is black, so your son is part black. Like, so all of that counts.
Yeah.
Even if we can't.
You mixed up the metaphors there, but definitely.
I'm sorry.
You said we know that you're black, plus your wife is black. Like, Harry's not black.
I said your wife is black.
No, you said we know that you're black, and we know that your wife is black, and so your mom is black, so your kid would be black. I'm just saying that
I got the words wrong.
You got the words in that all wrong, which I was like confused for a second. Like, wait, Harry's not black. No, the idea that their son Archie will be considered black under most standard understandings of... because
Archie...
because blackness is considered, what's the word I'm looking for? Contaminant.
Again, the one drop rule, right?
Yeah.
So Archie, the son of both Megan and Harry. Megan is biracial.
Yeah.
And her mother is
black.
Her mother is black, and so that all means something to them.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're a monarchy and you've colonized a lot of brown places, the idea that a brownness would find its way into your family is totally against the whole institution.
Right. So I think...
Which is unfortunate, to be honest.
It's definitely unfortunate.
At the least, but, powerfully classist and probably racially exclusionary.
Well, and I think that it's the fact that it's coming out. They've been married for a little while here. They've had one baby already. And I believe they're pregnant with another baby.
That's part of why the push for this interview and things is that they're now expecting their second child. They're expecting their second child.
They have denounced the throne for...
Yeah, he's renounced
the responsibilities of the throne.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is different than...
And there's a very interesting narrative there. The idea that Harry's, the son of Princess Di and having to renounce the throne, and that Princess Di had left money for him to survive outside of the monarchy. So... the idea that she was aware that this was going to be a thing that would happen. Not that he would
marry a black girl, but that he would want to live his own life because she experienced a very similar sort of level of rejection.
Yeah.
And
that she knew that it was temporary and fleeting and bad for you in a lot of ways. It's such a weird, I mean, when you think about it, the idea that we would still have a monarchy to that degree and treat it seriously when it's mostly just dress up. Like, it made sense when, they were also tied to political power directly.
But England has no control over the United States anymore. And
it's not about England's control over the United States. Like, the monarchy has no control over England. So there was a time when the monarchy mattered. No,
they matter.
They don't. Only in like public opinion. Like Beyonce matters, but she doesn't now change any sort of state laws. There was a time where to be the king or queen of England meant that you set the standards, but now it does not mean that. Now it's just kind of a ceremonial position that
Fair
comes
enough,
with
but they still
a type of human power, but not political power.
They're still able to. And this is just me as an onlooker from America, of course, but they're still able to live their lives the way they've always known it to be, financially. They still have the same
still have a lot of financial wealth and ceremonial titles and things like that. But it's different than the prime minister. It's different than what we consider like a president or a politician.
Fair enough, but isn't that a level of power nonetheless?
It is a type of power.
Right, but I mean, it's like okay, we have the president of the United States, but there are all of these companies that make a lot of money with a lot of influence, lobbyists, etc.
Yeah, but they kind of, I mean, the companies themselves earn their influence by having capital. Like, they're just a monarchy is born into influence, so they don't have to do anything to earn it. They're just considered better than other people.
But it's still influence nonetheless, right?
Yeah, but it's soft power more than anything else.
It is soft power.
When you think about what power is.
But again,
there's real power, there's soft power, there's, political power.
Right. But now,
financial power.
Princess Diana's oldest son and his wife, Catherine, are able to live this life nonetheless. And they have a level of influence. They have a level of responsibilities associated with it. Right. Yeah. I mean, you couldn't go over there and do that.
No.
Right?
No.
I mean, and that's
so I'm not saying zero
point,
power.
Right?
I'm just saying in comparison to like what we would consider political power.
No, if you're talking about enacting
I'm talking
true
about rules
change.
and laws.
No. I understand if you're talking about enacting true change. Yes.
It's like there's social policy.
There's
how to dress, how to act, cultural. It's more of a cultural power.
No, absolutely. But
in the same way that Kanye, at times could shift the cultural power, or Michael Jordan.
Well, people voted for him for president.
Well, I mean,
whoever those yahoos were.
Yeah. But I wasn't, I was thinking more in terms of, these people can set social agendas or cultural agendas, but not really but they still, we lend them influence. We give it to them. Much in the same way we give all of them power and influence.
Right. But I mean, aren't they, if you think about it, aren't they really powerful lobbyists?
I mean,
in their culture?
Really. No, their culture does not consider them powerful lobbyists. No.
Prince Harry and Meghan had to move back here.
Well, they were also escaping the machine. So there's the press machine and the public opinion machine.
Fair enough, but that machine is influenced by.
It's influenced by the attention. So the oh my God, I'm bad with words at this point tonight. The need to put eyes on the press. I know what word you're talking about. It's the idea that you're always in the spotlight and that you're constantly under this magnifying glass. Right.
There's a word for it, and I know.
And I cannot find it.
No, but I mean, that the idea that there are people who are constantly watching you, what you do, what you choose, and that can influence the behavior of others. Yeah, it counts.
I mean, I feel like. So my point was, it's a type of power, but it's not they used to be the power.
No, I understand that there's
until they had to develop parliament and all of that. Then the monarchy, was the power until.
But I think
it shifted away from that, and so it's weird to me that we, like I said, we give Beyonce or Michael Jordan a sense of cultural power, by virtue of our attention to them, but that this is, they were born into it. And now the desire to escape it comes from the fact that now it is overbearing, probably in part because it's only soft power. Well, and it's like a lot of attention, a lot of bullcrap for not a lot of dividends. Like they're not, they own lands, and that's they own a lot of those random, old money things that keeps money coming in, but it's not like it's it's severely limiting as far as freedom is concerned.
There are other options to enact power in different ways. But let me ask you this,
and to actually contribute to society in probably better ways. Let me ask you this then.
Do you think there is a sort of I feel like when you think about going from a true monarchy to what it kind of is now, and racism and slavery versus institutional racism, where it's a little more underlying, that there is definitely some comparisons there, right? Where it's like, okay, well, it's not law, but there's still
it's like the to be baked in.
Yeah.
In that way that, well, in a monarchy, there's going to be a classist system, right? So, no matter what, there will be limitations, on who has access to power and who has
who has the influence to make the powerful people, those changes. Exactly.
So, because racism, America didn't invent racism, we just perfected it. We made it policy and law in a way that in other places it was like, well, we'll have indentured servants, but we'll make it hard for them to get out of that. But they were like, hey, we ain't even giving them the promise of freedom. Like, they just ours now. They can't speak the language, so they're one of us. Until we have to deal with them as a problem. So that's sort of the difference.
I see what you're
but
saying.
England,
I'll give you that.
It still had the same problems.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, they colonized. Like they literally, a bunch of white men sat down and said, so Africa, who owns what?
Boom.
I got here first, so this is mine now. You got there first, so that's yours. Can we decide we shouldn't war over this? There's enough for everybody out here in these streets.
We'll just divvy it up.
We'll just divvy up a whole continent of people.
Yeah.
Right? Let alone like India and like other, inroads they made in trying to essentially take over parts of the globe because they believe they had the power to do that.
Right.
And so it's hard for us in that way to hear the stories, to look at, you want to think of it in terms of Disney, like, oh, to be a prince, and I feel like she found out being a princess.
Or duchess. She's actually a duchess.
A duchess is not what it's cracked up to be. It's a lot of work and a lot of pain.
Well, and this is coming from somebody who worked in Hollywood, okay?
And was already a celebrity. She had an idea.
She was already a celebrity.
Of the people outside that world you could get.
She did a great job in the show called Suits.
She was good on Suits, yeah.
And
I was a fan of that show.
Yeah, no, she was good in it. It was a good show. It's a good show.
I binge watched it like 3 summers back.
I watched a little bit of it, and then I got hooked. Yeah. Lawrence Fishburne's wife's in it, and it's really, But it's one of those shows, like, if you put it on, I'll watch it.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's looking lovely for her age.
She's lovely. She's absolutely. But I think, the idea that somebody even like her that is used to scrutiny.
To the spotlight is struggle.
And being in a perfected state, a lot of the time, even when that, and maybe it was, and honestly, this is one of the things that, happens when you get married. Maybe one of the things was she's like, oh, no, I can do this. And her husband was like, oh, but we don't have to, though. And I think that.
What's interesting is there's a conspiracy amongst the people who believe, who have a strong interest in these sorts of things that, she influenced him to leave. But I think
no. He put his husband foot down.
Right.
In a lot of ways that husbands do when they're protecting their wives.
Yeah. And say we ain't got to do this.
And he said, we're not going to do this.
And then they went to stay in Tyler Perry's house, which is weird.
Really?
Yeah. That's where when they left.
Because his house is like Rick Ross's house.
Right. Right. They went to stay at Tyler Perry's house. Like,
no, you know what?
I didn't even call up Tyler Perry and be like, hey, we need a place to stay, my guy.
Well, he probably was like, you're coming to Atlanta, y'all can come through. Yeah. I mean, she's an actress, so she knows.
Yeah, maybe. I guess that's still weird.
The 6 degrees of separation is
amongst
probably,
Hollywood. Yeah,
absolutely.
not that big.
Yeah.
I
get a Gina Torres and a Lawrence Fishburne who gets to a. Yeah, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
If you start thinking about it, it's probably.
I don't actually know any of them individually, and it's like once you start trying to make connections,
but if you think about it, if you go on these auditions together, you see these people, you make it, they make it.
You find out that a lot of them have connections, but I mean, she's also she do. Yeah. So yeah, I thought the story was not necessarily like super remarkable. I didn't want to spend a ton of time on it, but it was still like, oh, this happened. And that speaks to some weird underlying structural stuff that nobody really wants to look at. And they're going to avoid it. Like they've already, like the machine that is the monarchy has already been like, no, they're not racist. They couldn't be.
The queen
Here are
said
pictures
something,
of them with black people.
And then his brother said something.
They were very protective of the queen. Like she never said or did anything. It was like, she's just a figurehead. Like, of course.
Come on.
But within the machine, it's not a surprise that within the machine, there is a nice sprinkle of racism.
No, I'm not surprised. I haven't even I've seen more of the Oprah memes than I have.
Right. The Oprah memes have been funny.
The Oprah memes, I mean, that's, but as a black person living in America, it's like, okay, not surprised. God bless him. Do what you need to do for your family, yo.
Yeah.
Okay, protect your wife at all costs.
Right.
Okay, and she'll protect your children at all costs, and then you guys can be a unit wherever you go.
And they'll be fine.
They've
already got some things set up with Netflix. Like they've got some cash coming in. So
and honestly,
good. They're not going to be standing by an overpass with a sign like,
they will figure it out.
Will Monarch for food?
No. I mean, you're so no. They're not going to be on the
in a van down by the river.
A van down by the river. No. But I mean, I think the idea that he really is like, she is important to me. Yeah. And my family's important.
Obviously.
To me. He's always been that kid out of the two, right? That's something that everybody has made a note of. Like he always went off and did what he felt was right for him. And so, this is what he feels is right. And it's hey, protect your family, man. God bless him.
Right.
But I don't know very many black folks that were like, oh, what?
Yeah.
What? No.
It's interesting because they're so, just because they're known entities that it's a matter. And Oprah was involved, and apparently Tyler Perry. That it was a topic of conversation last week, and I just thought that was
if there's an Oprah, there's a Tyler Perry, and vice versa. Sometimes when it comes to
I mean, they're also, among American royalty, right? Like they
absolutely are.
In a way.
They absolutely are.
Yeah.
When you hear about an Oprah, like, they're absolutely like, I'll do an interview with her. Yeah.
Who wouldn't want the Oprah interview?
Come on.
Or the poor man's Oprah, which is the Red Table Talk.
or Gail.
Gail. Yeah. That's also there's levels to this.
There's levels to this. But either way, if you get to tell your story your way, like,
the way you want. Yeah, you get the message out the way you want it.
It's important. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, that was one big thing. The other thing is apparently that potato heads are a controversy.
What's the controversy?
People are upset because they're taking the Mr. and Mrs. off the potato head box. And so they're calling it cancel culture. But even though they're still selling potato heads.
They're still selling potato heads, and you still get
all the pieces. You still get the male and female pieces. You still get the mustache
bow,
and the lips.
You still get the purse. You get the lips.
And the eyes with the mascara on them, or the eyes without mascara.
So let me get
and
this,
arms.
So let me get this correct. They're still giving all the same parts.
You will still have access to all the parts of a potato head, be it male or female identifying parts. But the removal of the name Mr. or Mrs. on potato head seems to have lent itself to some cultural outrage, which is inane to me.
So why are they removing the Mr. and Mrs. off?
Well, I mean, the company itself said that just to eliminate, any confusion around gender. And essentially they just want to sell potato heads. They want to sell that hunk of plastic that is
that has all the little holes you can plug and play as you want, which is the whole point of potato head.
Whole point of potato head. To what you want. And
so the kids that identify one way or another,
they now
regardless of how they were born, can also play with the potato heads.
Yes. Anyone, you could still get a potato head. Anywhere you want.
The parts are still the same. Potato heads are still... Are people still buying potato heads?
That's always the funny thing about things like this.
For the ones that are upset about it?
People get upset about it, and it's like, when's the last time you actually went out to the store and bought one?
Right. Now, let's be honest. So our kids have the potato heads, right?
Yeah.
Mom found those in her garage.
She found a box of potato heads in her garage. Yeah.
1932. I don't know.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but still, like, we weren't buying new potato heads. I mean, but even if you were...
Yeah.
Are you one of the ones that's like, oh my God, I can't believe that all the types of kids, transgender, can play with these potato heads? Is that
right? You know, originally it wasn't a Mr. Potato Head. So the guy who came up with it, a toy inventor named George Lerner in 1949, he came up with the idea that you could push body parts into all vegetables, any vegetable, and you could make them into toys.
And you can make them into a boy or a girl or whatever.
Yeah, and it wasn't even about a Mr. or Mrs. But
no, it was
right after World War II, and they didn't have a lot of toys. Because they had taken all the aluminum and the tin and all that to make.
I love you, but stuff. Nerd alert.
Yeah. And so, he was selling plastic potato face pieces,
interchangeable face pieces. And you know what these kids do? They put the ear in the eyeball, and they put
they put them in the wrong place.
They put them, because that's fun for them. So
they bought and Hasbro bought the rights in 1952.
Okay.
And Mr. Potato Head was officially born
in 1952. Okay. And so now all they want to be able to do now is say potato head.
Yeah.
And you still get the same parts and everything, right?
You still get all the same parts.
But it's more inclusive?
And there wasn't even a Mrs. Potato Head. It was Mr. Potato Head for a very long time.
I was going to say, I don't remember Mrs. Potato Head until way later. I never had one because they were a little more out of my
And they were actually sharp.
range.
They were actually like pins that you put into a potato.
Yeah. I'm sure they probably started out that way. That makes sense. But now they're all plasticky and you can,
Yeah.
But
in 1964, they included the plastic potato body in each kit.
Okay. So now they have the plastic bodies and then plastic parts.
Yep.
And so what they want to do now is just call it potato head to be inclusive.
Yes.
And people are upset that there could be kids who identify different than maybe
they're just upset. I mean, right now
what are they upset about?
Right now they're very
about.
happy to be fighting a culture war, which is an interesting war to fight in the middle of the pandemic.
This whole cancel culture.
Because why? But instead of like dealing with the actual problems of America, it's much easier to focus instead on Potato Head and whether or not the Mr. is there. And I do understand. I mean, I guess if you really want to hold tight to the fact that he was introduced as a Mr. Potato Head long before there was a Mrs. Potato Head, it still seems very weird.
If we argued about all the things that have changed since the
things that
80s.
Companies decide to change, because it wasn't that. I mean, it wasn't even like there's not even anything saying that there was a backlash, but that they just chose to change it to Mr. Potato Head.
Okay, I mean, I don't understand. So what are people angry about?
They don't like that things are changing.
Okay.
Childhood things that they may not have even ever played with or played with in decades.
Listen.
Yeah.
I say this every episode. I'm 40.
But it's mostly so that they can create their own potato creatures. So that in many ways, they just want to.
That's always how it's been.
That's genuinely always how it's been.
Listen, they have ruined a lot of...
It's the same hunk of plastic. The hunk of plastic was never different for the male or the female.
There are multiple things that have changed since I was a kid.
But that
I had to accept. And realize that I'm 40-something years old. I'm not playing with potato heads no more. So...
And they were going to send it as like a potato family. And then you can get like 3 different little potatoes and with...
Victoria would love that. She wants a whole potato family.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they're not going to call them Mr. or Mrs. It's just Potato Head.
Do they understand?
So it's just going to be the Potato Head brand as opposed to Mr. Potato Head.
Okay.
They thought they were just going to be shifting, and that they honestly probably thought no one would care.
Well, because
until everyone decided to care.
Who's everyone?
All of the whites.
Them?
The whites.
Okay, because
they're also upset about Dr. Seuss. They're also upset about Pepe Le Pew. Well, now. That's a whole thing.
Right. So Dr. Seuss, right.
These are companies deciding to make decisions.
It wasn't even other
based
people
on
saying
their financial
Dr. Seuss
obligations
should do this. Dr. Seuss.
Well, people had said, hey, Dr. Seuss, you got some problematic books in your 50 books that this dude wrote. So people were saying, hey, Dr. Seuss has some problematic books in your 50 book line. Are you sure you want to keep publishing these books? And Dr. Seuss was like, oh, yeah, you know what? And it wasn't even Dr. Seuss himself because he's been dead. So it was the company, a publisher saying, yeah, we don't really need those. I mean, those books weren't moving like, oh, The Places You'll Go and Cat in the Hat were. So they just decided, let's just go ahead and take these off the roster for a little while. It was
like 6 of them, right?
Yep, 6 books. The ones that I can't even, I don't remember those books at all.
He made a lot.
He made 50 books.
Of books.
And he was whimsically racist.
Right, like a lot.
And of the books that were taken away, none of your favorites are gone. Those are all still top sellers. And so Dr. Seuss himself, he's fine. His family's still making money. They're making more because now the racists will go out and buy the books and be like, well, we need these to maintain this literature. But it wasn't like they said burn them all, which, is weird because there were times in my history where they were burning books, even in my lifetime, because they felt like they were of the devil. But now that the company decided not to publish these 6 books, it's like, oh no, there's something horribly wrong. And then Pepe Le Pew was just removed from the new Space Jam movie due to themes around, they felt like he was a little rapey, and so they decided to remove him, which I think is weird that people care. Because when's the last time you were sitting around watching Pepe Le Pew cartoons like that?
But even if you have seen Pepe Le Pew, for those who don't know, is a skunk. And he would see this black and white cat and he would just love on her like, yes, I want to
and be very
hold
pushy
you and kiss
and very
you.
overt. Yeah.
Yes, very overt, very pushy.
He did not ask for enthusiastic consent.
And it was right, but it technically, right? But the idea was that he fell in love. The humor about it was supposed to be that
how pushy he was and she's running away from him.
Fell in love with the
She's
cat.
rejecting his advances, yeah.
She's rejecting his advances, but the fact that it's not even a skunk
that he was confused and overly amorous.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And as with a lot of cartoons from that age, there's a lot about them that doesn't age well. We forget that those cartoons don't necessarily, if you look at them from the lens of today.
No, because we talked about Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, Tom and Jerry was super violent, and Tom and Jerry's gone through several iterations where they reduced the violence. There was racist imagery in Tom and Jerry. The Mammy character was considered racist, so they removed her at a certain point. Almost all of those old cartoons, any cartoon that was made before the 1950s probably at some point had blackface in it. And yet, as a purveyor of pop culture and old cartoons and movies, I'm kind of used to things going away. Like, I can't be mad that He-Man isn't on TV anymore, or that, the old show Mask or Dino Riders doesn't exist. Shout out to my people who remember what those shows were.
Listen, Mask,
we're used to these things going off TV. At
least Mask had a finale. There are a number of shows
that never get finales.
Did
Mask get a finale? I don't know. You couldn't tell me.
Got a finale, and I
remember G.I. Joe got a movie, but I didn't know that Mask got a finale, and I recorded it on VHS. Wow, look at you. That's how old you are. And so I'm used to these things being removed. All of our lives, they've been shaving off part. Like, nobody's having an uproar because Mickey Mouse doesn't look the same way he used to, because he'd be in black and white and much more gummy in the arms than his current incarnation. These symbols change over time, and we sort of accept it that they get whittled down to something more palatable to the current audience.
It just changes with time.
They just change with time. You'd be hard pressed to see Mickey Mouse whack somebody, but I mean, he was doing it all the one time back in the day.
No,
going upside Goofy's head with a board.
And we have a kid who is he's into history. Rise into history.
Yeah.
So he used to love the really, really old original Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. Steamboat Willie
cartoons.
era.
Exactly. The black and white versions where he's more wiry. He's not colorful. It's black and white. Like, he loved that.
Musical. Yeah.
I mean, and I don't remember watching those as a kid. They're available to us now.
I watched them as a kid, but and it's one of those, like, when someone tells you that they're changing it, you're like, oh, like, what you're supposed to do as adults is be like, I remember when it was different, and then just move on, because this doesn't even matter to you anymore. We've got other concerns. Like, I'd like to be able to go outside eventually. When's that vaccine coming my way? But instead, people are in arms because Dr. Seuss and Pepe Le Pew and Mr. Potato Head, and it seems very weird because
I think the Mr.
Why do you care?
I think the Potato Head thing is about being inclusive to kids who have trouble identifying with the gender that they're born with and all that other kind of stuff. And I think
they're just trying to sell more potatoes, and it's easier if you put all the parts in one box and don't call it Mr. or Mrs.
They've always
put a boy or a girl could buy it.
They've always put all the parts in the same box.
Well, they did gender the parts at certain points. But that was only because they were trying to sell you 2 potatoes as opposed to 1. Now they're going to sell you 1 potato with a bunch of parts.
Yeah. But heaven forbid they're so inclusive that you can decide which parts you want to use,
as which people always did. So it doesn't even.
So I don't understand that.
It's hard to understand. It doesn't actually make sense. It don't make sense.
Make it make sense.
Make it make
Pepe
sense.
Le Pew is definitely sort of like, okay.
I mean, he's not going to be in the movie. They didn't erase him from existence, as they have so many other characters. There's many characters from cartoons that have been erased from existence. Who's Daisy? What was Goofy's girlfriend's name? Anybody remember? Daisy Duck? Either? A lot of characters just fall off the map for a variety of reasons, and no uproar, but apparently Pepe Le Pew is taken out of a movie, and it's a part of a press release.
It's not so much that he's taken out.
He wasn't taken out of any of the cartoons. They just took him out of the Space Jam 2 movie. That's it. That's what started that.
And ain't nobody gonna watch the Space Jam 2 movie.
Somebody's gonna watch it. It's got LeBron in it, and Don Cheadle will be in it. So, I'll eventually get around to it.
Don't care.
I have kids, so
I'm gonna watch
it.
I didn't watch the first one.
Hold on. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. I see me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly.
You believe you can touch the sky?
I believe I can fly.
Canceled him too, though.
Well, yeah, I know, right?
So,
yeah. Still an amazing song.
Yeah.
But, R. Kelly.
It is an amazing song. And Miss Tina was singing it the other day, and I was like, we canceled him. She was like, yeah, I know. It's still a great song.
Here's the thing. If we were to try to have art and connect it to every bad person who ever did anything bad,
there's always going to be...
It'd be impossible to enjoy any art. And so I believe you can separate the art from the artist. I also believe that, some of these things, through the lens of nostalgia, we don't know how bad they look, but that doesn't mean that we have to retain them. Almost nothing is unassailable because we are humans, and humans are flawed, and we mess up. But still, we will, play the slow bugle for Mr. Potato Head.
And apparently Pepe Le Pew.
And Pepe Le Pew, who will live on.
Wait a minute. Wait, stop.
History.
So stop. Let me make sure I got this right. So Pepe Le Pew still exists in the cartoons. He just won't be in Space Jam 2?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the part where you just start bleeping me out, because who cares? Who the cares?
People who, F-bombs. Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks for giving Chuck more time in the editing booth.
I'm
just
sorry,
the people
Chuck.
who are fighting the culture war, who feel like they need to retain pieces of history that they know about right now because it matters right now.
Can I make a statement to those people?
Oh, is it going to be a curse word?
I'm just trying not to. First, giving honor to God, who is the head of my life. For those of you who are so incredibly upset about Pepe Le Pew not being in a dumb Space Jam 2 movie. Bleepity bleep. Expletive. Sit down, shut up, find something else to do.
And with that, it is time to go to commercial. Thank you so much for joining us for the Hallspace Podcast, and we'll be back in just a few.
See you soon.
So let me tell you about Anchor Podcast. It's the podcasting service that I use. Anchor.fm is the easiest way to make a podcast, and there are many different reasons why, but foremost is it's free. So you don't need to go out and buy a whole bunch of equipment. If you have a phone or a computer and a microphone, you can record and edit your podcast right on your phone or computer. So that's one major benefit, as well as the fact that they'll distribute your podcast to several different podcasting sites for you. Not only can your podcast be found on Anchor, it can also be found on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast as well. So you don't have to worry about going to all those different sites and setting yourself up. They'll do it for you. You can also make some money on your podcast. Say you have a podcast that only 5 people listen to on a regular basis. They don't limit you on how many subscribers you have to have in order to be able to make a little bit of change for your podcast to keep yourself going. So pretty much everything you need to start a podcast can be found at Anchor.fm. So go download the app either in the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or go to Anchor.fm to get started. And I guarantee you, it'll make things so much easier for you, like it has for me.
Love, relationships, the church, the world as we see it today, and many more thought-provoking conversations. This season of Speak Kaya, She's Come Undone Talk Sessions, coming to your ears soon. Keep watching.
And we're back.
Hey there.
And we're talking about the other news of the weekend. Apparently, Kirk Franklin, a little about it.
Little bit.
About it.
He went black dad on you.
He went black dad. So his son, his 33-year-old son, Carry On, was posting on Instagram a conversation between
him and his dad.
Yeah.
And there was also a third person on there that was listening, but
yeah. And so in the call, it was Kirk Franklin cursing, and at some point, his son tells him, his 33-year-old son tells him to shut the F up, and Kirk Franklin basically loses it
and says, "Who are you talking to? I will choke you out."
Yeah.
He went black dad.
He went full black dad on him.
Full black
as
dad.
I would expect my dad to do if I ever said shut the F up.
Absolutely.
To his, even over the phone. I don't know that any phone would ever be like.
It doesn't matter. Like,
listen, my dad has gotten mad about things that he saw as disrespect that I didn't even see as disrespect at the time. Like, I wouldn't even try to challenge you.
No,
I just had a question.
This was just my opinion about the subject.
I
this
just
wasn't
differed,
even,
in my opinion. I just had a question as to why you thought that way.
This was nothing against you, but
but he lost his stuff, and so
on everything, telling. I have never said to an adult, an elder,
adult, shut the F up. Yeah.
Without knowing that I'm taking my life in my very being into my hands.
Yeah. So, it's a bold move. It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Bold move, Cotton.
Let's see if it works out for him.
How did it work out for you? Not very well, apparently.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and honestly, we don't know the full story.
There's elements of this that is very personal.
You never do. It's when it comes to family stuff, right?
Yeah.
But we do know that he sort of posted. One of the posts that I originally saw was like, "Oh, everybody thinks Kirk Franklin is this great guy, and he's really not. I'm tired of trying to make my family love me, all sort of kind of stuff." And then he recorded this conversation, which I don't understand, recording conversations and then posting them. I mean, there's got to be some motive behind that, right? He posted and he's like, "You guys think Kirk Franklin is great. He curses."
Yeah.
Well, you put him, I mean, when I originally heard about this, I absolutely thought he was a teenager.
Yeah, because it's a very teenager move.
It is a very teenager. I have
to go to social
hair
media
on my chest, look at it.
Want to show the world that your dad is a hypocrite.
Your dad is a complete hypocrite with a capital H. look at him. He's the star, but he's not taking care, he's not doing what I want him to do, basically. And it's like, he's 33.
Yeah.
Son, you're 33?
Yeah.
Are you even arguing with your dad in that way? Like, you just want your curfew to be longer?
Right.
Because that's kind of what it sounded like.
It's kind of what it felt like.
That's the energy that I was getting, like, oh, you're not going to let me have the car?
Yeah.
Shut up.
You never really know we don't really know what the nature of the fight itself was, just that they were having a fight. Provocative.
It's provocative.
Gets the people going.
Gets the people going.
Yeah. So, it's a weird situation, to be sure.
It's definitely, it's not a weird situation as much as, it's
dysfunctional, I guess. I use the word weird, but I really mean it's a dysfunctional family situation. It should be private. I'm of the mind that it should definitely be a private affair.
It should definitely be private, but it's not something unlike a family situation, right?
Yeah, and we don't know all the information.
We have no idea.
It does spark within, I would say it sparks within me, this idea of, like, being raised old school.
Yeah. No matter what
my dad would have done. No matter
differences that you have with your father.
You don't put that in the streets. That's family business.
Two things. Number one, you're never putting it in the streets. Number one. That's number one. Number two, whether you have differences, on how you feel about him and things like that, you still never disrespect him.
Yes.
Right? And so you can differ on opinion without ever saying shut the F up. Like,
right.
I feel like the old black person in me is like, those are fighting words.
Yeah.
It is mad disrespectful. And it'll always be mad disrespectful. It will always be disrespectful. It will always, listen, I wish one of your children with your face would act like
but that's also how we're raised. We're raised to, whenever we hear within the African American community that we are connected to, if you hear about another child disrespecting, you immediately start to think, well, I bet my kid bet not. I wish they would.
I wish.
Fix their face to tell me.
Fix their face.
On a cell phone I'm probably paying for.
Shut up at all.
Right.
And shut the F up?
Right.
To whom are you speaking?
To whom are you why do you speak this way to me?
Well, I will kill you for it.
Yeah. To quote Superman 2.
That's epic.
That's a callback. Yes.
Listen.
But definitely feel the way that that is not allowed.
And he's 33.
So
it's not 13 where he's like, I can't believe I can't go to prom.
Yeah. Or where he's like, my dad's yelling at me. This is emotional abuse. And it's like,
no.
This is two grown men having a disagreement at this point.
I mean, at 33, you live in a whole different,
right?
Maybe even zip code, if not house. Like,
right. You should,
sir. Everything.
It's also probably like our own assumptions about his entitlement, having a rich father.
Well, he's got a rich father. His mom is
it's
different.
Obvious there are a variety of communication problems.
Definitely.
Kirk Franklin has other children by at least one other woman.
Right, by at least one other woman, and he feels differently from the other siblings.
There's probably a lot of like I said, dysfunction. It speaks to a lot of dysfunction.
Well, or just family business, right? Because the sister came out, business. which has always been held privately. Right?
Private, and
all those arguments
sacred.
have always been a lot of families. Which can be hard,
particularly if you're a little immature. You kind of wish that someone outside the family knew what was going on. But according to what Kirk Franklin said, they had a therapist that had been working with them.
The argument that they had that was recorded.
The part that was recorded.
The part that was recorded, because it's not in its entirety.
It's not the conversation in totality.
He said he called the therapist in to help him.
Kirk Franklin said that,
to help them
the nature of
diffuse the situation or discuss it or whatever it was. Yeah. Listen, at 33, there are only so many. Let me say this: there are a lot of things that our parents have done during the process of raising us that could be considered bad or damaging and things like that, right? And sometimes, they see what the errors of their ways and they can apologize for it, and sometimes they don't, right? But when you get to a certain age, when you get to a certain point where you realize, oh man, this is something that I don't agree with, because it doesn't even necessarily have to be good or bad. Something you don't agree with,
right.
You have to say, as an adult, This is not how I want to raise my kids. Right? This is not the path that I want to take. Right? I understand.
You are more in charge.
You
have more
are
agency
in charge of your life. And at 33?
Yeah.
Listen, Jesus was about his business. Kirk Franklin is a gospel singer. How many times do you think somebody called his son like, hey, while you arguing with your daddy, Jesus was about his business, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what are you doing right now other than putting all your business on the Instagrams? Knowing that it's going to reach a lot of people. Right. I mean, if our kids post something like Rod has a YouTube, God bless him.
With 3 people that watch his videos, and 2 of those are me and you.
Listen, and every time I see his video, I love it. Okay. All right. Okay. Because I love him and I love his stuff. But yeah, I mean, the idea that there's a certain point where you have to take responsibility for your own behavior, regardless of how you were brought up, regardless of what happened to you in the past. You need to be able to address the past, right? Don't ignore it, but address it and figure out how to move forward and figure out what part you play in it. And move on from there.
Yes. No, there's something to be said for the maturity that is recognizing your parents were flawed individuals.
Absolutely.
And that you can't necessarily hold them accountable for everything that ever went wrong. That they may have made some mistakes, but that you have to find a place for that in your heart and move past it to do whatever work it is, be it therapy, be it religion. To recognize that,
all of the above.
They had the opportunity to be flawed individuals who were doing their level best to raise you under the circumstance. They were more than likely, the majority of them, trying to do the best they could.
More than likely, they're doing the best they can. Maybe not intentionally.
Like there are, definitely parents who are abusive, who are harmful. But I've said on the podcast, I say it in life, I learned a lot more about my dad when I became a dad, because suddenly I saw the challenges of trying to be an individual and a parent and a father and a husband.
There's
so much going on
said for being in that position and understanding the difficulty.
Right. And your flaws are just being pulled out the whole time. Your
flaws are just like mirrored back to you, right?
Or just being irritated
or just being
exacerbated by the job, the role.
And not everybody is able to even recognize them as flaws, right? Not everybody is in this. And
we always or the ability to recognize what they are doing, or
they always talk about this sort of level of self-actualization where you realize everything about yourself and everything that affects you, and etc. But there are some people who just sort of say
who don't
know, can't recognize it. All they know is what they know at the time, and they're doing the best that they can. And when you become a parent, a lot of times you give your parents so much more grace than you did as a smart teenager who knew everything. Right.
Yeah, you definitely recognize
and that's what I was originally thinking the story was, is a smart teenager. Oh, you know everything. Right. Because as a teenager, what did you say as a teenager that you would never do to your kids that you do to your kids? Right?
There's a lot of things. Definitely. I remember having a moment where I was like mad at my father for not being able to like attend my band performances. And it was interesting. Like in retrospect, it was like, okay, so I now know, like, he was working a full-time job.
I was going to say he was working.
He had a lot of other demands. There were 3 of us. And I don't know why I got it in my head that, you see it on TV, like a real father would show up to his son's games and see him perform. My dad was like, I did see you perform. And I was like, you showed up to a game because you were coaching the other team. And
no, it's like, no, your games were at 2:15 on a Tuesday.
Right.
Where did you think I was?
He actually coached football. And so he did see the games because he was coaching games where I played. And I now understand, like, oh, he's got multiple demands on himself and his time.
So he's going to his full-time job and then coaching.
Yeah. And, I felt, hurt that he never made it a purpose to, personally for me, but only because I came up with it in my head. Like, there's no other reason that I thought he should, other than it occurred to me, and maybe I saw it on TV that a dad did that, and that he was proud of his son for, playing first trumpet for the Aiken band.
Let me say this. He didn't see all of your performances, etc., but he was absolutely incredibly proud of you no matter what.
Yeah, I recognize that now. But like at the time, just in thinking of the juvenile reactions that you might have when you're somewhat of an entitled young person who could only see like 2 feet ahead of him and not see the larger picture of, oh, this dude's also making sure the mortgage is paid so you have a warm house to live in,
you have no
to play that trumpet. And so you should probably shut up about his inability to always be at the games you play at, because you're also living your own life, and he's living his, and he can't always be absolutely available to you. You have to recognize that you have some space to live your own life.
As a kid, though, you don't think your parents have
you don't recognize them as full beings.
No, and you have no idea how many spinning plates they have. One of the advantages that I had being raised by my grandparents was that they were pseudo retired. So, once they started raising my brother and I was 9. Yeah. By the time I hit my senior year, or started at 9th grade, performing in plays and all that kind of stuff. And they would show up to that kind of stuff because they could. Yeah. But I, as a mother right now,
it'd be very difficult.
I struggled to make it to all of the kindergarten, preschool, middle of the day award ceremony things. I struggled.
Right.
I mean, and
time off work.
It is time off work. And honestly, on everything, sometimes it was sneaking out and saying it's a lunch to go see these kids get their awards at 1:15 and being able to wave at your son for 3 seconds before he gets whisked off to his class.
Yeah.
And then I go back downtown from Coleraine, you go back 45 minutes to,
right. Just so that they can have a memory.
Just so they can have that.
Because that's what we're taught as, this whole middle class cultural lifestyle of, being there for your kids.
Right.
When, historically, if you worked at the steel mill, you didn't see your dad again until the end of the day.
No.
And that's just how it was.
No. But you know what? You had running water. You had electricity.
Right. Where it say I got to like you. You got food in your belly? You got a roof over your head?
# fences.
Right.
Yeah, no.
Tell me where it say I got to like you. Yeah.
I felt like doing all this other stuff already said that I like you.
Right. Yeah. I see that through a much different lens. 15-year-old me would have been like, why is dad speaking to him that way? 43-year-old me with 3 kids is like, hey man, I be putting in work to make sure you survive.
You just made yourself a whole sandwich with the bread that I worked 2 hours.
Right.
Okay.
To purchase.
No.
I had to go to the store to purchase.
Right.
I had to get the special lunch meat because I like the special lunch meat. You just eating it willy-nilly.
You're just eating it willy-nilly.
You don't even put mayo on that sandwich, which I provide. I provide the mayo. I provide pickles. I provide lettuce because I like this on my sandwich.
Sir.
And you just gonna eat a half sandwich.
Hey, Richie Vaughn.
What's up?
Stop talking about raw.
Oh. I'm just saying.
Stop dogging your son, okay?
I wasn't dogging him. I'm just saying.
Don't you fix your face. Don't fix your face to say. Don't fix your face to say, which our kids say. I have to do everything, but you don't.
Right, because you don't have to do everything. Even if you did all of the things I asked you to do, you still wouldn't do everything.
You still
that
wouldn't
keeps this machine going, because it's a whole machine.
Yeah.
With rivets and screws that have to be wired and
they have no idea.
soldered.
I mean, and some of those things, you don't want them to have that burden, right?
No.
But there is there's always this part of you that's like, I want you to at least respect. There are 100 things,
100 moving parts that makes
you
this
don't
thing go.
understand is happening right.
And within their reason, it's funny because when I talk to Rob about saying some of these things, sometimes that's our oldest child. He seems that he's like, I don't want to be ungrateful. I do get it. He just gets so caught up in what he wants that sometimes that he doesn't think in terms of the larger.
And sometimes you can see him snap out of it like, I'm not saying that I don't appreciate the computer that I already have.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I
would like a better computer. Yeah. What's that going to take?
I mean, and even with...
And I'm open to negotiation, but it's more about, please stop and recognize the fact that, this still costs money.
Yeah.
And money is a thing I have to work for. And it doesn't just because you want it doesn't mean you get it.
No, and he's 10 and he gets that. He gets that more than maybe most 10-year-olds get, right?
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Maybe.
I mean,
but the fact that he gets it is enough for me.
Yeah.
The fact that he's like,
well, you're a
I'm
mom.
not saying, I get that.
You're totally in your mom energy. And I'm like, he's got so much further to go. There's more to teach.
I'm definitely in my mom energy.
Yeah. And I'm like, So I'm a dad about it. And I'm like, well, he's got to learn integrity in the price of $1.
Yeah. I mean,
a hard day's work.
But that's why you're the dad and that's why I'm the mom. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's why.
Yeah, there's different roles for these genders.
Different roles. There are different purposes that we
serve in his upbringing, and you need both energies to make him into a whole person.
You do. You absolutely do.
Yeah. I mean, to circle back to what caused this conversation, and apparently, let's send up some prayers for Kirk Franklin and his family as they get themselves through this very difficult
as they get through this publicly. I mean, we've all been through a version of this in our families.
Internal strife.
But it's always
beef.
Internal, like I'm texting my cousin or what, but for them, it's on Instagram.
So it's now known to the world.
Now it's,
And as a person who, like I said, I deal with 20-year-olds all the time, and I see them, and it's always interesting. I'm looking for the nice way to say this that doesn't affect my credibility if one of my clients were to ever come across this conversation.
You want me to say it for you?
No. There's a way to say it. 20-year-olds often get angry with their parents because they think it could have been different raising them. And so there's often a part of like the process of working with them wherein I get a little buy-in by agreeing with them. Like, okay, I could see from your point of view why this is what you needed. Mm-hmm. And what I'm often trying to do is plant the seeds of, but also isn't your parent a person? So that eventually they could recognize that while I'm upset with them for maybe not validating a portion of me or understanding me as I go through my journey as an individual, I can also see why they might have a differing perspective. Now, sometimes, the relationship is so hard that I'm just like, look, you're 18 and I know you're in college or whatever. Let's just get you to graduation and then you could be your own independent person because that's probably what's going to be best for you because as long as you are under their house, they do have some authority. Like I was raised with an absolute authority model. So I do understand that sometimes you just got to navigate that water until you can get out.
Right.
But also, when there is room for negotiate and have conversations if you're allowed and recognize that eventually, it's easy to see them as the bad guy because they're in charge and you don't have the full picture yet.
But then once you're in charge,
one day you'll be in charge
and you'll realize
when you're old enough to realize your father was right, you'll have your own son telling you that you're wrong.
Yep.
Shout out to Fontigolo for that gem because but it's so easy to think that the person in charge of you making decisions above you is not taking your best interest.
They're doing it with impunity, and it's not. No, there are so many.
There's more going on than what you believe or understand.
There's so many things going on.
Yeah, as a kid, that's hard to understand. Even as an adult, I see adults. Well,
you don't have you're not mature enough. Your brain hasn't processed enough or experienced enough.
I mean, I would say, normally I say, well, the brain doesn't mature till 25, but in this circumstance, the dude was 33, so his brain should be further along than it is.
Right, but he was also raised differently than you and I, right? So he was a privileged kid of...
We're going to make those assumptions. We don't know for sure.
We're going to make those assumptions.
Yeah. But yes, your brain isn't as mature, and without some of the adult responsibilities. That's why it's good for kids to have jobs. Responsibilities
that I guarantee you that you and I had and that a lot of kids, middle class and lower, had that he did not have.
Yeah, that's why I often argue against parents who are like, don't make their kids do anything. Like they should, if they can't be in a band or a football team or something like that,
where they have to learn how to interact with others.
At the age they can get a job. I know you're trying to protect them from the world, but they're going to have to work outside of you and without you one day. Oh, yeah. So make them learn the responsibility that is getting a job. I'm very much a parent who's like, as soon as it's time to get a job, that they are capable of it. As soon as they can get that work permit, they're working. Because that's how they learn how the world works.
Well, right. Good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
Right? There are going to be things that are unfair. There are going to be things that are good for you. There are going to be things that are not so good. But you're going to have to be able to navigate all of that.
Yeah. Also, that stuff keeps them out of trouble. So they shouldn't be at home playing video games all day just because they don't want to do anything. Life is work, my guy. And unless you can come up with a really good plan to make money at home, like via investments or something, or, computer programming, you're going to need some kind of gig.
Ra's going to finagle his way into computer programming.
I'll allow it. I'll even encourage it. But he's got to find, we got to get some good contracts going. We got to find ways to make sure that you, are actually putting in the time for it, and not just you want to sit around my house and play video games all day. Because I have a lot of parents who just they don't want their kids out in the world because they don't want them to have adult responsibilities. But then they're sitting with a kid who's, 20 something and is afraid of the world.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the other side of that they never quite learn the internal agency and animus to motivate themselves to be, because they're afraid to be, because you kept it from them for so long. And that's always bad. Don't put them through that. Give them the opportunity to spread their wings so that they can fly. And this is from a guy who lived in his mother's basement until he was 30, because he was in graduate school. Mm-hmm. And my dad was so afraid that I was going to be a failure to launch. You're a failure to launch.
Well,
failure to launch.
The funny thing about that story was that you had an apartment.
I did have an apartment.
Because your mom was like,
yeah, I had to get out.
Oh, you got hair on your chest? You do that in your own box. Right. And
I went and got my own box. And I lived in my own box for a while. And then was coming back to go to graduate school and did that.
Right. But during that time, though, the thing about you was that not only did you have your own apartment, you were going to school full time and you were working full time. Mm-hmm, so there wasn't a lack of work ethic. There was just there was this bravado there. So
things need to be fine tuned.
Yeah, definitely. But as a parent, it's like, okay, if you show me you've got this work ethic, right? Then you're not going to disrespect me. So you will definitely have to get your own place to do.
If you want to be disrespectful,
right? But there was enough of good things about you as an adult that she probably wasn't quite as worried.
Yeah.
Because you did have that work ethic, right?
Yeah, I've always had like 2 jobs.
At least. Yeah, you had a lot. You work a lot.
Yeah, I do work a lot.
I get it.
I told you in the beginning.
And get it.
Yeah.
And get it.
Do you? I don't know if you heard, but I work a lot.
You have 3 jobs right now.
2 half jobs. And 1 real job.
He's got 3 W-2s.
1 W-2 and 2 1099s, I think. 1 1099, and then I don't know. What do you do when you're the boss of the other company?
Okay,
I still need to figure out the taxes. It's a whole thing.
Did y'all hear that line?
It's getting closer too. Like I really need to figure my taxes out. I need an accountant.
You do,
which means paperwork. If you know,
I am sighing loudly.
Oh, is that what you're doing?
And my eyes are rolling.
Okay.
All right.
I'm sorry. I work a lot. I told you that was one of our first introductions.
You did.
So it shouldn't be a surprise. He did tell you.
Not surprised.
You shouldn't be.
I'm not.
At all.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's, when it comes to giving your kids this real world experience, but with a good enough cushion, you do it when they're 15 and a half, 16.
Yeah.
Then there's this cushion that, yeah.
So that they know.
Right.
Life is work.
And you help them through some of those experiences, know.
Yeah.
Not to say you can't do it when they're in their 20s, but...
Right. It's the older they get, the harder it gets.
Yeah.
I mean, in many of those, it was like I worked a job at Arby's to know I never wanted to work in Arby's again. Like, I'm not going to do food service forever. You also get to meet those people who are doing that, and you're like, I'm not going to be that person.
Yeah.
And, it's part of the, teaching, like I said, a work ethic and the value of a dollar and time being money and all that, which are part of these, middle class values that I was raised with. But to put an end cap on that Kirk Franklin situation, like I said, praying for the guy and the family involved, because it sounds like a lot is going on there. And the family therapist to me is like, ooh, this sounds like money in the bank. Not to be cynical. But man, there's a lot of work to be done. You and I were just having a conversation where I said there are certain situations where I could see the code of the Matrix in the situation. Like, wait, this sounds like that type of dysfunction, and this, this.
Yeah.
And
you can calculate what's going on.
Not necessarily calculate, but it's like, you see the threads.
Yeah.
That like if I pull this and pull that, and there's some father-son stuff there. There's some communication issues, and there's a temper issue, and there's a feeling invalidated. Like I see that stuff in a lot of human interactions, which is why it's hard for me to watch things like reality TV where those traits and behaviors are encouraged for ratings and popularity. So it's very difficult for me to watch that stuff without wanting to either pull it apart or just see the falseness of it and feel like, oh, no, we should not celebrate this. This is bad for everyone involved.
I watch those and I'm like, what?
Yeah, I watch those and I'm like, why are they letting this person act like this? This is horrible for everyone.
Because...
And this is obviously like a deep-seated traumatic thing from this person's past that's now coming out on full display on television. We should slow this down and have her talk to someone.
Oh, see?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, she crazy.
No.
Bummer.
I'm like, she needs serious help, and I don't even know where to start with a person like that, and I can't even begin to have a conversation about it because it's just too much. We got to like have a whole psychoeducational discussion about the foundations of some of these false beliefs that she's espousing so loudly. So
we're just flipping tables in Europe.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
You see this underlying stuff, and I'm like, man, she just flipped the table.
Right.
Europe.
You're just being entertained, and I'm like, what is happening?
I'm being entertained.
Yeah. So that's thank you for joining us for another hour of the Hallspace Podcast.
We absolutely appreciate it. Let us know what you think about, the
episodes. We've done a lot of content. I've had a lot of content come out in the past few weeks. So
we have.
So glad to have you guys listening.
We absolutely appreciate it. Check us out.
Mm-hmm.
Leave comments, on any of the episodes if you got something that you want to chat about.
Right. Random Ritch story. I was in a staff meeting on Friday, and all of our staff meetings are via Zoom, and apparently there's a new Puerto Rican food place in College Hill. So my boss starts telling everyone about the Puerto Rican food place. It's like, they make mofongo. It's really good. And if you know about mofongo, it's a Puerto Rican dish, but it's like a Chipotle place. So you can like go down the line and choose what you want in your mofongo. Ooh. And he's explaining the place to us. And I, being me, made a joke about it because that's what I do at work. I'm a bit of a jokester. And so I said, did you just put an ad break in our staff meeting? Like, maybe I've been listening to too many podcasts, but did you just do an ad break in our staff meeting? Like, do you also want to tell us to like, share, and subscribe while we're at it? And it got a lot of laughs out of my coworkers, and I thought it was hilarious.
Because you're a ridiculous person.
Because I'm a ridiculous person who likes to interrupt staff meetings with funny asides. And it's very
foolishness.
Weird. It's very weird after being in the quarantine for a year that I can't do the thing that I used to do, which is you'd be at a staff meeting, you look at the person next to you and make the joke. I'm now having to make jokes to myself. So I'm muted talking to myself, and they're always like, Ritch, what are you saying? You're muted. It's like, it's okay. I'm just making like a dozen jokes that no one will ever hear. They're great jokes. These are hilarious jokes, but I can't make them out loud because nobody can hear me. So I've just decided to mute myself so I'm not constantly interrupting the person speaking. I was going to say,
you can't interrupt the person.
Right. Because I made a joke to something that's really good. Hold on. Let's back up to what you said, and then I say, all right, continue the meeting. Yeah.
Trey Kennedy does a great version of trying to make a joke during whatever Zoom meeting.
Yeah. It's hard work. It's hard work to be a Zoom meeting stand up.
It is.
Because it's just the timing's all off.
I'm sorry, what did you say? Huh? What? Oh, yeah. Were you making a joke?
I was making a joke.
What? No, I was just gonna point out that our TPS reports have been late.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. Okay, you go.
No, 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 you go.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go, and then you go.
And then, right. But your joke can't go before I go because that's not how it works.
You're right. Hold on. I'm going to make my joke. Sorry, I was gonna make it. It's not important.
No,
we can move on. We can move on.
No. What I think Ritch had is. What were you gonna say?
I wasn't gonna say anything.
I think you were gonna make a joke. Or something?
I wasn't gonna make anything. I wasn't gonna say anything.
Are you sure?
It's the moment's passed. I know. Now everybody's looking at me thinking I'm gonna say something funny, and I know I set a really high bar on the funny things I say. Right. I actually had to tell a bad story.
So now everybody's looking at you like...
Yeah, I had to tell a bad story at work, and I had to stop everybody at first and say, this is not a funny Ritch story. Like, I got to tell something bad. Just to set everybody's expectations.
Just so that they know not to...
They're so used to be like, hey guys, I'm going to tell you a funny one, and I'm going to try to keep it short.
So then Victoria.
Right. So the dog. The dog ate my garden hose.
T'Challa.
Yeah. Another adventure in the life of T'Challa.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So anyway, thank you so much for coming.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Glad to have you.
We, even when we go over time, we're thankful that you kind of hang out
stick with us. Yeah.
So, you know what the music means?
You know what the music means. Our time is up.
I say good day, sir.
I say good day. The Hallspace Podcast is brought to you by Hall Productions, LLC. Show notes and credits can be found at our webpage, thehallspacepodcast.wordpress.com. Any questions, comments, or concerns can be sent to us at thehallspacepodcast@gmail.com. The show is written by Daggerpin Davis. Music is curated by DJ Cabal. The show is produced by Chuck Jones and recorded at Slash and Trash Studios. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you all have a good week. House Hall. We rise brilliantly.